a pen and take one step closer, dear.
Heyo YouTube, it's Connor and Chris here with Metal Inside Me. Today we interviewed Blind Summit, a metal band from Manchester, UK. And Chris, why don't you give us a rundown of what we talked about?
Over the course of the discussion, we talked about their songwriting process, their time spent actually going to university to study music, as well as a number of other things, such as their approach to marketing, their approach to lyric writing, and the musical scene in Manchester, England.
Yes, and timestamp ends will be down below. All the links to all of their music, and that'll be down below. They just released a new single, 303. Me and Chris very much enjoyed it. They have a previous 2018 EP, which their new stuff sounds pretty different from.
Yeah, but all of it's good.
Yes, I agree. And without further ado, we will jump into the interview.
Okay, so we'll start this thing off by having everybody introduce themselves and tell us what you do in the band.
Okay.
Go
Do I
Alfie.
start?
Yeah.
Yeah, Alfie
Okay,
first.
I'm Alex. I am the vocalist.
I'm Tom and I play bass.
Joe.
Oh, me first, okay. I'm
You
Joe.
third.
I'm Joe and I play guitar.
I'm Will. I play drums in Blind Summit. Well, we're all in Blind Summit, obviously. So.
Yes. Thanks, guys. So why don't you guys tell us the story of how Blind Summit came together and formed?
Wow, okay.
That's got to start off with you three because I was the last to join. So
So it started with me and Will sat in our university common room. I was playing a 7-string guitar, playing Periphery, and he went to me, "Is that Periphery?" And I said yes, and then that was it. And then we
You
were
couldn't make this sound any more awkward if you tried.
yeah, but it's kind of just how it was there.
I think it's probably better if we like sort of set the backing. So as Joe mentioned, we all went to the same music university in Manchester, called BIM, or British and Irish Modern Music Institute. So that's where it all started, really. As Joe mentioned, I obviously heard him playing Periphery, which at the time I was, I mean, I still like Periphery, but I was proper into Periphery back then. And yeah, it started from there. And I knew Tom, so me and Tom did the college course together and had played in a few other bands and done a few other things before that. Went to Download Festival together a couple of months before, and we're talking about how we wanted to sort of start this band up. And then it was first year, so there was loads of new guitarists that came, and Joe was one of those guys, and he had a fucking massive beard, Schecter. I was just like, right, okay, there might be something here. So that's where it started. And then what actually happened was I introduced Joe and Tom, and then they went off, ditched me, and went and played a Periphery tune with other people.
It was one rehearsal.
Well,
Yeah.
and then we came back. And we're here now.
Yeah. It was weird, like, because I met Alfie at the Architects gig on the All Our Gods Have Abandoned Us tour, and I can't even remember now. Like, it's, a guy called Jack, who plays guitar in the Human Veil, who are a really good band, told me that my mate's girlfriend's looking for a band. I was like, oh, and she's into like Tesseract and Periphery. I was like, oh, cool. So I kind of met Alfie from there. So it was like kind of two separate groups, and we just kind of.
you came to my house
together.
beforehand.
I did
and
come to your
my
house.
flat.
I did.
And
indeed go to
like
your
before,
house.
you were talking about like, yeah, we're gonna do this like tune for at the end of each term and every year. We put on like a little gig. The entire uni, you audition for it, and if you got on, obviously you play this gig. and they were wanting to audition. I can't even remember. Was it a Tesseract tune?
Dystopia, yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
I
suggested
had
Dystopia.
basically begged to be in the. I was like, please let me do it. Please let me be the vocalist. And they were like, well,
Actually, yeah.
we've got some other people wanting to try out. And I was like, please let me do it. I really, really want to be like the vocalist for this track. And then it was like one practice, and at the end of it, there was a Facebook group chat made, and it was like, right, so we're going to start a band. Do you want in? And I was like, yes. And then now we're a band.
Yeah.
That's
Nice.
Strange.
yeah. That's
Kind of how it came
worked.
about. Yeah.
Pretty much.
So I think you guys are the first band we've spoken to who have mentioned actually studying music in any way whatsoever. So I'm interested if you guys could tell us a little bit about your songwriting process and the extent to which it's is or is not influenced by your academics.
Not
That's
at
a
all.
really good
Not
question.
really. That's a great question. Yeah.
Vocally, not at all. Originally, I didn't want to go to uni at all, like to do anything, never mind about music. I went and worked for a year and then decided I was like, I can't do this for the rest of my life. Music is what I want to do. But where I come from originally is Sheffield, and there wasn't anybody that was doing sort of music that I wanted to do that I could get into contact with easily. So I was like, right, I'll go to music uni. Didn't really expect to stick it out for the entire time, and did vocals rather than songwriting. So for that, there wasn't really much songwriting involved at all. And it wasn't until joining this band that I really actually got into songwriting. Originally, I was just like singing covers, or somebody else would write the songs and then I'd just sing them. And it wasn't until that we've sat down and like wrote songs that way that I'd even contemplated whether I'd be any good at it. Never mind about writing them. So vocally, not at all. Not
I
at all.
think it's weird for us now because we've been through quite a few stages. So our first EP was primarily written by Joe, but now a lot of the stuff that we're doing, like our new track 303, me and Joe write a lot of it. So it'll either start. Well, 303 was written by me and Joe together. We started it together and pretty much had the track finished by the end of the sort of session that we had. But I'd say that for us, me and Joe both studied performance. So like actually how to, like the intricacies of, for me it was drums, and obviously it was guitar for Joe. And I think in some ways that did help. But if anything, it was more the environment that you're surrounded by at a university with other musicians and different ideas and different concepts, especially with the sort of stuff that we're doing and the influences that we had. Having the knowledge brought to you of their, say, for example, like someone like Snarky Puppy, I would have never listened to before going to university. But there, it's something that they make you listen to and make you learn, and then you can see how it impacts the bands that you like and listen to, whether it's, you know, Animals as Leaders or any of that sort of the weirder stuff. So I'd say that's probably the biggest impact that it's had on our songwriting, is just, you know, broadening horizons. Because these days, I think it goes for quite a lot of us. We all love metal, but we don't listen to it that much. And I think you'll find that it's quite common with, especially a lot of the musicians that I know, is it's not it's something that I've listened to for years and years and will always love, but I think it will become very stale and repetitive if that's just your main influence. I think for all of us that's pretty ubiquitous.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, you know, like, because as you mentioned, we have been through so many different kind of sound changes, and the new stuff that's not out yet, again, sounds different to, more similar to 303 kind of vein, but again, it still sounds more different. And, you know, and having people who, because we all listen to, you know, different, each of us has, you know, bands and artists that we listen to that we know the other people in the band won't like. But those ways still kind of worm their way into the music and stuff. It's kind of It's pretty cool.
It's kind of like we started off with like sort of going down like the more progressive route when we started as a band, but now like we've sort of, after that EP, we've sort of changed how we sort of want to write music, if that makes sense. Like, so we don't really want to write stuff in a progressive sense, if that makes sense. But if it happens naturally, it happens.
Yeah, it always sounded like we were trying to make it sound a certain way. I think back, like we wanted to have to have a clean guitar bit here, so we sound like, you know, more tesseracty, more contortionisty, you know. But now it's kind of like we like this bit with this bit, you know, when we just gonna kind of roll with it.
We kind of just roll with the sound that we think works for the songs that we're writing at the moment.
I'd also say that's probably, back when we were doing that, that's probably when university influenced us the most.
Absolutely.
Because I know writing my parts, I was like, oh, well, I've just learned this crazy right hand pattern on the ride that I'm going to put over every single bit because it's in 3 and the rest of the song's in 4. And when people hear it, they're going to be amazed. But now I spend 95% of my time songwriting, helping Alfie with the lyric and vocal writing. And that's what I enjoy out of this band now. I'm not saying that my love for drumming's gone. It's just that for me, it's so much more emotionally attached to songwriting than I am performance in terms of becoming the best drummer in the world. Or I don't think any of us are really like that.
I was a bit like that back when we started.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like we were very much like that. That vain sort of wanting to be, you know, whatever, revered. Certainly for myself anyway. We're only young as well. So when I started in this band, I was 17. So I'm only 21 now. We've been going for a few years. So I was 17 when this started. A lot of stuff's changed for us, which is cool.
Yeah, we've matured quite a lot as a 4. Like we've had some lineup changes as well. Like, but I think we're quite settled as being like a 4-piece now, which is quite a big step for us, I think.
It's come full circle as well because it's ended where it started, you know, because we started off as a 4-piece, and even though we had, you know, like Georgia and Carl have both, you know, come and gone, and now we're back as a 4 again. It seems kind of poetic.
Well, to the credit of your first EP, when Connor and I were listening to it, we did in fact think of The Contortionist. So you were successful.
Yeah.
I never think that we'd sit there and say, oh, we want to sound like The Contortionist. But like I was saying before, we were listening to stuff like Language so much that it just naturally
it naturally occurred in the music. Like we'd just naturally move towards that kind of style of writing, and it just felt right at the time.
For uni, we did we made Subservient into all acoustic, so you should have heard that. That sounded like The Contortionist.
Some of those were so bad, though. Oh my god. So bad.
Horrendous.
So, you know, that's actually very cool to hear you guys say this, because something me and Chris have talked about quite a bit is oftentimes you hear with a big band, when you go back and listen to their first album, their influences tend to really show themselves very predominantly. And so I'm interested to know if you think you guys are starting to get to the point where you're finding your own sound. You know, you've talked about with 303, you're kind of just letting the music write itself, not trying to sound like anybody. Or do you feel like you're moving towards finding your own sound?
I think we're getting, yeah. Go on, Will.
I think it's really difficult to say, because speaking for myself, I'm so much more involved now with the songwriting. Like, as you can see, all this sort of stuff, this whole songwriting setup sort of just came together over the last couple of years. I bought myself a proper guitar to do recording with and all that sort of stuff. So for me, there's certain demos that I will send, and the guys will be like, mate, that sounds exactly like Deftones. get out of here. You know, so
Yeah.
it's like
All the time.
I think the best thing with us is that me and Joe, well, the best thing for me about our songwriting process is that me and Joe bring very different things, and they accompany each other quite well. So I've been listening to metal for literally like since I was a toddler, sort of proper, like institutionalized by it. Like I went to my first show, which was Rammstein, when I was 4. It's just like proper institutionalized. So that's what I sort of bring, is that, like, you could call it dad metal side. So all that sort of stuff, as well as obviously more modern stuff. And then Joe loves all the proggy stuff. And I think we come to find a nice balance now. It's not like 2 one way or 2 the other. Like it's just nice that I can bring Joe apart and say, what do you hear? Or he can do the same with me. And then it
I
just
think-
has its own sort of organic sound.
I think as well, like me and Will have now sort of figured out our ways of writing together as a 2, as well as, well, like not even just the 2 of us, like some of us even still get involved here and there, like with writing, like Tom writes bass lines here and there, but like we've kind of come more together cohesively with what we put together in the demo stages, and then we sort of work it with everyone else afterwards.
I think it's a
So-
really really efficient way of doing it as well, because in going back to the kind of more of the question, like our own sound thing is like, I think definitely we've found in the last kind of 5 or 6 demos, and including 303, is that they've all kind of got that kind of cohesive sound. Obviously they all sound different, but they definitely have a theme that links them, you know, even if it's just like a guitar tone or like a synth or something like that. You know, the sound is really without even really forcing it, I think, has kind of established itself really strongly, especially between Joe and Will's songwriting as well. And then, you know, having like a really very, very finalized song, and then we can just kind of garnish it here and there, you know, as a 4 of us, we'll kind of tidy it up here and there. And I think we've gotten really comfortable in that as well. You know, it's really, we can pump out demos really quickly now, and they're all really good. Well, we think anyway, but
Well,
We agree.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you guys specifically about your approach to writing lyrics. You've hinted at the fact that it's a little bit of a collaborative process. And we talk to a lot of hardcore bands where lyrics are largely influenced by an ethos or a personal philosophy. And so we always like to ask about whether or not your approach to lyrics is more literal or metaphorical, or if injecting some kind of textual meaning into the songs matters to you at all.
For me, I find it a lot easier to sing and relate to the songs when they are personal to me. So the Subservient EP, that was very much a time I was going through in my life that was not good for me, and I needed to get that out in some way, and that was in the form of the EP. So that was very much like something I was actually going through. Now I'm not so sad, which is not so good for the lyric writing. I have no personal experience to bring to the songs. So like 303 was written about, this sounds so stupid, written about my favourite anime. So that's what that one's written about. And that was actually really fun to write. I remember...
it was for you.
Pardon?
It was for you. I didn't know what the fuck was going on.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I turned up at Will's and I was like, this is what the song's going to be about. I hear it. I kind of know what I want to say. Like, this is what we're doing. And he was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. I've never seen that anime in my life. Trying to explain it to him and like write this song. And he was like, I can't relate to it, but I can like help with like different words and replacing different like lines with other bits that sound better. And we sort of made that work. But then I've kind of gone back to, with the stuff that we're writing at the moment, we've gone back to personal experience or like how I'm feeling at the moment. So in terms of like obviously with the current pandemic and stuff, people losing their jobs and things like that, and thinking like, but why should I have to just get another job and work, like wake up every morning, go to work, come home, have my tea, have a bath, go to bed, repeat the next day? That is just, I don't want to do that. I want to make music my thing. And so yeah, the new stuff is generally, again, more personal in terms of where my head's at. I definitely find it a lot easier to relate to lyric writing if it is from personal experience.
Yeah.
Even if that personal experience is conceptual as well, like the first track that me and Alfie really wrote really collaboratively was Reverie, the single that came after Subservient. And that's personal, but it's personal and conceptual. So that was a lot easier for me to delve into and relate to, because obviously when it's either completely conceptual like 303 and about something that I have no idea what the concept's about, that was difficult. So for me, primarily on that, it was just, as Alfie said, help. It's good because obviously me and Joe wrote the instrumental. I can be that link between what we've written instrumentally and then displaying the structure to Alfie and making sure that she knows where we were thinking things should go. Especially things like note choices I can help with, but lyric writing usually is the thesaurus on here looking for different words.
You're like, this is what I want to say, but I don't want to use this word. I don't like this word, or it doesn't fit in the syllables that I'm trying to sing. Be like, right, bring the thesaurus up. And then we'd go through this big long list and be like, I like that word better. It doesn't really mean the same thing, but that one, I like how that sounds, and like replacing them. But yeah, I think Reverie was definitely, again, personal, but definitely embellished. Like, yeah. Definitely embellished to be a little bit further from the truth than reality. So I feel like that's important. I think if it is too like explained, if you're listening to the song, you might not relate to it. I feel like keeping it open and embellishing it so much that it's not so true means that it is more relatable.
I think that's one thing that me and Alfie have been working on, is like making sure that, for one, we're not writing too much, and that the things that we're writing can connect to people in different ways. Because if it is too literal, then you're sort of limiting the way it can be connected with. And I think for us, obviously, we have our own meaning for it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that meaning is concrete, and it can be interpreted however you want. So if you hear fucking 303s about cats and dogs and whatever else, then go ahead. I'm not too bothered. But yeah, not being too literal, but also having sort of a main focus is something we've been working on.
So I'm interested to know if you guys think your newer sound kind of fits into any specific subgenre of metal.
Ooh, it's a loaded question, that.
I think
That's basically asking, who are you copying? Like,
I think it sort of does, like, in a way. Obviously, the answer that every band wants to give is, "Oh no, we're our own thing. It was so unique and amazing." But like, I feel like we've kind of, in the last year or so, since we kind of, obviously, basically since we became a 4-piece band, we've kind of really been influenced by, again, like kind of at the beginning we were influenced by Tesseract and whatever, but now it's like we're influenced by it, but we know how to like use it without us basically just saying, let's put this here, let's put this here, you know. It's like, so we kind of have more, we've gone down more of the vein of maybe Loathe and Deftones, kind of bands like, you know, like Lotus Eater and all these kind of new hardcore bands that are sort of techie and proggy, but not like super down tuned and really, really aggressive, but in a non-traditional way, if that kind of makes sense. They got like really fizzy guitar tones and kind of, yeah, we've kind of gone down that kind of vein, but with like a real emphasis on melodic vocals, because we don't have any screaming really. So so just having Alfie putting a lot of the melody coming entirely from vocals rather than guitar. Like the guitar and the bass are kind of more of a rhythmical onslaught thing now, and the vocals really carry the melody of the songs now, rather than the guitars and the vocals like it was before. But I say we've kind of gone down that kind of, I guess, I don't even know what to call it, like kind of post whatever, post hardcore, but also slightly progressive, technical in some areas, you know.
I think it's difficult because a lot of our influences are the same as bands like Loathe or a band like Spirit Box. Do you know what I mean? Those bands we have similar influences from. It's not like we've heard that and then Control C, Control V'd it. It's a case of I love Deftones and Meshuggah, and when they have a baby, this sound happens. Do you know what I mean? And obviously other bands like Slipknot or whatever it is that influences me particularly, they're very they're staple sounds of modern metal. It's not like a case of we're getting the secondhand smoke of that, you know. I think for me though, the main thing that's come from bands like Loathe and now other bands is that sort of synth sound. I think that's the only thing for me, and I know Joe loved all that stuff previously, but for me, like, I was never really into electronic music, but hearing it in a different environment and how it can be used to sort of create those soundscapes is something I've taken from them. And look, you can't take it away from them, because there's some British bands now that are just phenomenal. You've got obviously Loathe, you've got Sleep Token, you've got loads of bands that are really combining heavy music with brilliant songwriting, and that's something that we strive for. Not necessarily saying that everyone thinks that we do or don't do that, but yeah, they're definitely current bands from maybe obviously a little bigger than us, but in the sort of British music scene of metal that are influences.
Yeah, Sleep Token definitely came to mind when I was listening to a couple of your newer songs, 303 and whatnot. Sort of imaginable, but more in the way that it...
Sorry, lost
What was
you
that?
for a second. Lost you for a
Oh,
second.
sorry about that. Yeah. Oh, I was saying that when I listened to some of your newer material, I did in fact think of Sleep Token, but not in that I thought you guys were doing what they were doing, but that in the novelty of it was a similar listening experience of it just felt kind of new, which is a good thing. But something that of course Sleep Token did very well was they're masters at marketing, right? And you guys have spoken a little bit just now about how you've sort of attempted to make lyrics that are broad enough that they can be relatable or have multiple interpretations. And so with those two things being said, I'm curious if you guys have a really stringent approach to marketing, if there's anything you're doing deliberately to attempt to cultivate an audience, or if you're more in the camp of just making music for music's sake.
I think it's a good decent amount of both of those things. I think it's a bit weird recently. Like am I allowed to say? I don't know if I'm allowed to say about Jay. Am I allowed to talk about Jay?
I don't know.
Let's not talk about that.
Yeah, let's not talk about it.
I think we've got a decent mixture of both. Like when we started promoting 303, we were really I personally really wanted to hammer home a really good social media aesthetic. Like so we went when we did like promotional shots and stuff. I was pretty specific with our photographer. You know, it's kind of like, you know what, some of them like this, some of them like this. And we in the end we had like loads and loads of photos, and like we chose all like the ones because of the purple cover of 303. The artwork's all purple. there's loads of purple in the video. Like how let's have purple photos, and so like if you go on the Instagram, like I quite like how it looks with like we want to have like an aesthetic where you wouldn't even need to see the name of the person posting it. We're like, oh, that's a new Bland Summit post or something, you know. Obviously, it probably wasn't like that, obviously, because we're not, you know, a massive band or anything. But having like that cool purple filter over everything as well, like make it look really cohesive, was a big thing that I wanted to hammer home. I think everyone else was kind of in the same camp as well. So
Yeah, I think cohesion's important over a release, not so much over every release that we've done, because obviously it's going to change from Subservient to now. I think the sound in general requires something different, but that's probably just my approach.
I think in terms of obviously where we've got to and what we've released so far, we're not really that old of a band. So in terms of marketing and stuff like that, in terms of bringing in a fan base, it is literally we're just playing it by. So up until now, it's just been we'll try something out. If it doesn't work, we'll try something else. It's only like now recently that it's like actually we're going to have to make this work properly if we're going to want to market and make obviously grow a fan base properly, because that is something obviously we're wanting to do. So it's something we're looking into more. So in terms of like how we engage with current fans that we already have and things that would be more would make people want to listen to the music or see us as actual people rather than a machine, is something that we're looking more into. So like for 303 we had like the video that we put on the Instagram of me just talking and being like, what up dudes? Really awkwardly like, so the song's coming out the weekend, everyone excited, cool. Like that's something that we've never really done before, and that's something that we've obviously been looking more into, and I think we will in the future, of how we engage with fans, because it's not something that we've done, because it is so weird and so awkward to, I don't know, have like 10 fans and to have just like a camera being like, so we're releasing, like it's weird. It's the same way that I can't still call at a gig, I don't call people by a city. I find it really difficult to be like, what up Manchester, like how's it, like, it's so weird because everybody there are people that I know, I talk to, so it's like, I'm not sure, relating to people on a personal basis is always something that I want to do, and I want to do more of and continue to do as we go on in marketing, and I think that's something that I really want to play with from now on, and hopefully that will work for us. Who knows?
Yeah, it's great to hear you guys talking about thinking of these things, because obviously being in a band has changed quite a bit over the last 6 months. I mean, can't grow a fan base right now by playing live because you can't. And so I would like to ask about how your previous experiences of playing live have been, and did you find that was pretty profitable, helping you guys gain a fan base? How is that compared to the digital marketing side of getting your music out there?
It depends how we play, mate.
Again, like it's strange as well with playing live, because we've not actually played a gig as a 4-piece.
No, we haven't.
Because we had the last gig we did in January was the last one that our old guitarist Carl did with us, and yeah, so we're in a bit of a weird place to say really about that, but we love, I personally love playing live more than anything. I absolutely love it.
Me too.
Yeah, and I think we've only gotten better, even though like the gig in January that we did, the one I mentioned a minute ago, even though we were in a little bit of a weird situation because with our old guitarist, but even after there was some like doubt in us, we got off stage, it was like, that's like the best gig we've ever played, even though we were under weird circumstances. Like we did a little weekender coming up to about almost 2 years ago now, with some friends, and I was in a band called Archaon from London, and that was our first real taste of, like, it wasn't like a proper tour or anything, but it was like 3 consecutive nights, playing shows in the north of England. And we kind of realised how much money it costs to do shows, and how expensive just travelling around and to play a gig is, you know.
Mhm.
And yeah, we kind of learned that from that little run of gigs that we did a little bit ago. It was a great time, of course, because it was to support the EP when it just come out. But if we, you know, thinking about the cost of everything, it was very expensive.
Yeah, I think for us, we all come from that performance background, so we love performing. I honestly, if I could just beat the shit out of drums for an hour every night for the rest of my life and be fine, it'd be ideal. I'd probably have some tendonitis and stuff, but other than that, I'd be good. But yeah, live for us is different now because we're going so much lower, sort of in the double drop areas. It's like making sure that we can have that translate live and it not just sound like the brown note is is something that we need to really hone in on.
We haven't had much of a chance
because-
to test that out yet, unfortunately. But
Yeah, because sometimes you can go to shows, you know, like 300, 400 capacity venues, and the PA just doesn't support that sort of sound. It's just not designed to do that. So you have to have a really good engineer to obviously provide you with, you know, non-fart sounding music, which is good. But saying that, when you go on tour, you then have to hire them, and that costs more money. So it's like, what do you want to do? Do you want to tour and you sound literally like shit and get no fans and get nothing from it? Or do you want to spend more money, sound all right, and potentially get fans if you play that one section right, and if, you know, Alfie's good on the mic in between the songs? So it's, you know, it's just one of them things. It's a catch-22. It's either
You can never know whether it's going to sound amazing out front from our position, especially from us playing on stage, obviously. So
we were so fixated on sounding so good, like, because we invested in running in-ear monitors and running a click, so, you know, we can all be super tight. And I remember back when rehearsals were a thing, you know, we were so anal about getting everything so tight, and, you know, running sections loads and loads and loads just to this one bit just to get it super tight. And you know, and if we then go and play a show, like maybe at a venue that we don't know and we haven't hired someone, and it sounds terrible, it just feels like it's all wasted, you know, because we're there like sweating, you know, oh god, I've got to play it right, and then it just sounds terrible over the PA. It can be quite frustrating, but we hope that that's not the case when gigs start up again.
we're actually the worst band ever.
Yeah, we actually are terrible.
Usually when we get a sound check, it's all right. But like the last gig that we played was like a weekend festival type thing. So you literally get a line check and that's it. You get to make sure that what you're playing will be heard, not how it's heard. So like when we're, because we run digital amps and pretty much all through the PA. So if you've not got an engineer who knows where his inputs are and all that sort of stuff, it can be an absolute nightmare. Like we played a show in London.
Worst gig we've ever played.
Yeah, travelled all the way down to London to play this festival. And honestly, we got on stage and nothing worked at all.
The worst case scenario is horrible.
In-ears didn't work. Axe Effects just stopped. It's just like, but why are we even here? The hotel, the one-star hotel was staying.
We travelled.
Oh lordy!
We travelled like a good 6 hours in a car for that as well, and basically it just didn't quite work out the way we wanted it to.
Yeah. It was like a comic book, you know. It's like everything went wrong that could have possibly gone wrong. It's like, you know, and we spent so long trying to plug everything in, and just it just didn't work. It was so bad. So, and everyone just kind of sat there like, just like, what are these clowns doing? You know, they got this huge rack in this venue where the floor isn't even. You know, and you know, it's just awful. Oh my days, it's so bad.
So, what is the music scene like in Manchester? Is there a lot of metal there, or what?
Oof.
Metal's healthy in Manchester at the moment. I think
Definitely
it's an
healthy.
amazing place. Like,
Yep.
there's and from all sides as well. I think there's loads of good kind of more progressive bands like us. A band called Absalom are really good. Then there's also kind of more hardcore metalcore bands like the Human Veil, Where Oceans Burn, and there's also the whole extreme metal side of it, like all your slam bands, your deathcore bands, death metal bands like Detest and all that. It's a really healthy scene in town. And that the gig that we did in January, that was like a big showcase of. There were other bands from other cities as well, but like there was 3/4 of the bill was Manchester bands, and you're there just watching it. I was like, yeah, there's some really great bands in Manc at the moment, and we were. You know, it was a pleasure to see them all. You know, from the slam bands, you go upstairs and you can see a great metalcore band. You go downstairs, you see, you know, a death metal band or a deathcore band, and it's great. Yeah, it's really healthy at the moment.
Yeah, and most of the shows as well. Not every show, because you know, don't live in Wonderland, but most of the shows are quite well attended. So like, it can be a shock when you go to a different city and there's just the crazy old man in the corner with the beer and like, you know, 5-foot woman dancing. It's just like, do you know what I mean? It can be a bit of a shock, but yeah, it's good in Manchester at the moment. It's weird as well because a lot of the bands actually came from our uni. So
that is really weird. Yeah.
Not like it's because trust me, at that place, if you play metal, they will not push you at all. They want you to have an acoustic guitar and be pretty. And if you're not one of those things, then you don't get pushed. So for us,
we got quite let down in quite a lot of our courses because of
Yeah.
I don't even know how to explain it, to be honest. It's quite
It's boring to even talk about.
It's just straight up terrible. That's all I have to say.
Well, it's funny you guys talk about that because my next question I wanted to ask about what the mainstream culture's view of metal is like in the UK. Because here in the US, it's definitely a little bit more underground. You know, the average person that I meet definitely thinks it's like a strange thing that I podcast and talk about metal all the time.
There's a little bit of a satanic panic left over.
Really?
Panic. That's a great term. I like that.
I like that,
Wow. That's wild compared to how it is in the UK. That is really odd. I feel like I don't know if it's the sort of people that I am friends with or that I know or I talk to, but it is literally like everybody listens to metal. It's definitely more accepted than it would appear to be in the US then, because that is really bizarre for it to be like, oh, do you listen to this band? Be like, oh no, like that is so odd, because generally it's like, or even if they don't listen to the band you've suggested, it'd be like, no, but I do listen to this, and it's like, what? Like it's, I don't know. I feel like it's definitely more accepted.
The UK, like the UK is quite linked to like this whole sort of what's it, the like UKTM, if you've ever heard of that. It's
UK
just,
tech metal.
Yeah, just UK tech metal. Like it's quite, that's where a lot of like the most sort of up and coming metal bands and most of the big bands seem to sort of appear on, in terms of in the UK most of the time anyway.
Yeah, it's this huge following. Like I don't know if you've heard of Tech Fest in the States, but that's like, it's honestly the strangest, because me and Joe went last year just to go and see some bands, and it really felt like a real community there. Like, I don't know, obviously that's in a very niche part of metal, like in the technical progressive metal kind of scene.
Yeah.
But it was amazing, you know, like it feels like genuinely you could set up your chair at anyone's tent and just sit down, and you can have a good time with whoever's there. You know, have a chat, and it's really strange. Like, it really feels kind of really connected and stuff in a really weird way. Like, but in terms of like bigger groups, it's I don't know, maybe not as much, but like your kind of small to medium bands, I think is a really, really good place to be because of the sheer amount of small festivals that happen that are well attended, because TechFest still pulls like 3,000 people every year.
There's even like
amazing.
bigger festivals though, because obviously Leeds and Reading have always been big festivals,
Yeah,
and in
massive.
terms of the lineup, obviously has been like stereotypical like pop sort of things, but it's getting more metally or like heavy rock, and like Download Festival is so well attended for just like, I don't know, there's so many really heavy bands and they're not so heavy bands. There's something for everybody in terms of what sort of heavier music there is in the UK. So I feel like it's not such a scary, it's not like here you either have pop music or like country music or pop music, or you have like, I don't know, some sort of horrible, like really, really heavy. There's not like a, oh, well, that's all there is. There's so much of a broad spectrum of music that it comes under that everybody just listens to anything. It's not like a big scary metal isn't like, oh.
I think it's really helped in the UK because we've had bands, like really big bands like Architects and like Bring Me the Horizon, While She Sleeps, like massive bands that have done really well in the US as well. We've had them here, and obviously they broke out here. So that scene, maybe the sort of metalcore scene that Bring Me the Horizon and Architects came out of is maybe gone, but there's like a newer revival. I wouldn't say it's mainstream. So for me, like, as I said, I've liked metal for a long time, and it was weird in high school when I was, you know, listening to Slipknot and, you know, Black Dahlia Murder and whatever else I was listening to, and then going out onto the AstroTurf and playing sports with all the sporty people and, you know, doing all that kind of stuff and being into weightlifting, and that was weird because usually those people are into rap music and whatever else. So it's not super mainstream, but it's not really frowned upon. You'll get the odd person who's just like, you know, get the little Jesus piece out and throw it at you or whatever. But no, it's generally, it's all right over here. It's not too bad.
Yeah, I should qualify our comment about the States. Connor and I live in Nashville in the American Southeast.
Right.
And so our experience is a little distinct from folks who might live in Seattle or New Jersey or wherever.
I mean, we're in the country music capital of the world, for God's sakes.
There's nothing wrong with country music.
That's true. There is.
I think for us, like, it started here though with Sabbath. You know, like my dad's older, so in his 60s, and tells me about when he saw Sabbath, because he's from Birmingham, my dad. So my dad saw Sabbath in a pub before Black Sabbath, the first album, came out. And it's just like, I look at him like, do you realise you're like one of the luckiest people in the world? You know, I'll sit at home and watch Black Sabbath 1970 in Paris and be like, if I had a time machine, that's definitely where I'd go. But yeah, it comes and stems from here. And obviously when they came out, it had a backlash and all the satanic stuff and witches and whatever, all that spooky stuff. But now it's like, you know, Alice Cooper and all that did as much shocking as humanly possible to sort of allow for it to become a little bit more mainstream. So yeah.
Yes. So shifting gears a little bit, what is your biggest struggle that you've faced so far as a band?
Oh my days. Probably lots of lineup changes. They really set us back, I think, more than we realised when they first started happening.
I also
Like-
think when we were at uni, we found it incredibly difficult to maintain traction as a band
Mhm.
because of the amount of work we had to do at uni. It was just it's just really hard for us at some
Yeah, that
point.
was difficult. It was hard when we had to keep up the momentum of post-subservient stuff. After the
Yeah,
EP came out, we did the run of shows.
and
We were
then
like final year of uni and dissertation and all this
and then
rubbish stuff.
yeah, and then going back to like lineup changes, then that whole thing that I was just saying there, like the uni stuff, that happened when Georgia left the band as well. So it's like a bit of a double whammy in some way. So we left, Georgia left the band, and then we still had to do all our essays and stuff that were like crazy.
Yeah, that was really difficult. Like I think we really was set back by that as well as uni.
hmm
And it seemed
It made a
we
bit
didn't
of
have
a dip.
any drive, yeah, and then we got another guitarist in, and then stuff just didn't really work out with him either, and then it was like, oh, what are we gonna do? And but it's
I think
weird,
for us, we tried to take what we could from being at uni together, though, because when we were there, we were obviously on timetables of when we should be there and what classes we should be attending that we probably didn't go to enough of. But at least when we were there, we were together. So when we were there, it meant that we could obviously work on band stuff as well. But that was sort of with subservient. When it got to final year and things really started, picking up in terms of work, that, as the guys were saying, that's what really did start setting us back. And after we've come out of uni now, nearly 2 years actually, which is absolutely mental to say. Is it nearly 2 years?
No, it's just over a year.
Oh, just over a year. Sorry, I feel like I've been in my room for 2 years since coronavirus. Yeah, so I completely lost my train of thought.
You're on about uni workload.
Oh yeah. So after we've come out of uni now, like jobs and stuff, we're working primarily just to fund doing band stuff. So that's how it's working now. So we've got a lot more free time. So it's just a case of, usually, if I feel inspired to write a demo, I'll literally text Joe and say, like, come to my house. And he'll come on the train, and then we'll sit here, and then either a demo will be done, or it'll be like a 999 BPM blast beat with some fucking stem picking over it.
Basically, it means that it could go one way or the other.
Absolutely nothing, or a really good song.
Yeah. There you go.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So on the flip side of that question, what has been the most meaningful moment or experience each of you have had being in this band?
Ooh, that's another one.
That's a very difficult question.
Personally, as in you want us to go each
Yes.
person.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Wow. God.
I can tell you a weird moment when we were recording at a studio in Cambridge with Rich Hinks. A really weird moment. So a couple of weeks before we went there, I said to the guys, taking the piss, obviously, having a joke. I said to them, I want to record my drums in front of a big glass window, and I want an eagle
Oh my God.
to fly past.
Remember?
Okay, so we were walking in with the drum cases, and I'd never seen this place ever before. I don't know whether I'm clairvoyant or what. You're from Nashville, so maybe you could tell me more about that sort of spooky stuff. But, but I think we went in there, and I looked at this window, and it was a massive glass window. And then I looked, and there's like a sticker of birds, of an eagle. And I looked at it, and I was just like, what the fuck is going on here? We must be in the right place at the right time.
That was really freaky. I can't think of mine. Man, that's such a hard question.
I just, yeah.
I think when we did the Weekender might be up there for me, because that felt really satisfying playing 3 shows. And the Manchester one was great, you know, and there was lots of people there. It was really, really good. That was really rewarding. But I have another good, quick, fond memory from Cambridge as well when Rich was using it as like a big promo. The producer, Rich Hinks, who plays bass in Annihilate, the thrash band, he was using it as big promotion for his production company. And he had a guy come and film the video. And he's like, "It's okay, man." I get like smiley every time I talk about it. But he said, "Can I bring my mate down to film the video?" I was like, "Yeah, whatever. That's cool. You know, get some nice shots and all that." And he said, "Oh yeah, it's my mate Vadim." And I was like, "You having a laugh? Like, I'm a huge Dragon Force fan. And I absolutely love it." And it's Vadim, the keyboard player from Dragon Force, was like his best mate. He just showed up at the studio, and I was like, I was literally listening to the new album yesterday, and he just showed up and he's filming us. And I was like, oh. I had a bit of a fanboy moment. I wasn't ashamed of it. It was great. That's a fun memory I have of that.
I think my funniest memory has to be when we played a show in London, and it was the worst show ever.
Will's gone.
Will's gone. Oh no, he's not. He's there.
My
Right.
phone's on 20%, so it just started having a meltdown for a second.
Okay.
I'm back now. See.
So I had we played the worst show ever in London. We had all the technicals ever, and we sort of all just had a chat, and we just sort of brushed it off, and we all just decided to get really drunk. Like, we just all decided to get absolutely hammered.
I think the
Speak for
concept would
yourself.
For better or
I'm
for
a
worse.
responsible
Yeah.
mom is what I was. I was a
Yeah.
responsible mom, and I kept trying to have these
Responsible.
conversations with the other bands, and I was like having like good conversations, and I'd be like, oh no.
And
Here
I
they
just,
come.
and I
Here comes Joe.
Right, oh, leave me alone. It's bad.
and I just sort of, we all eventually left, and like we all went to this kebab shop.
A miracle we got there, I think.
And Will, I had absolutely no money whatsoever.
I forgot about this. What funny.
And Will, I just went to Will, can you buy me a kebab? And he bought me. I asked him, can you buy me a kebab? Can you buy me a falafel as well? And he bought me both. And I just like
Just sat there on the bed like, oh, shoveling like an animal. It's a tradition at the end of an English night out always ends with a kebab.
The context needs to be there. So I don't drink anymore, but I started drinking for a little bit. And that was right at the start. And I just went absolutely mental. Like I had literally like 6 shots in like 10 minutes. Just went crazy, loads of Jaeger bombs and stuff.
Irresponsible is the word.
Yeah, irresponsible. Don't do that.
Yeah, it was great.
Especially when you're in front of like loads of other big tech bands and you're just going insane.
You're there to prove yourself.
It was just
Deary me.
a funny night. It was just one of those.
I wouldn't say that was a fond memory, but I'd say that was definitely a funny memory. Alfie, you need to say yours.
Mine is. Yeah, I'm trying to think what mine is, because it's
has no
it's
enjoyment
really
here.
difficult to pinpoint.
No.
Like, I don't know, a specific time. I feel like whenever we do like a weekender and we travel places together, or when we do like we've been away a couple of times, like obviously recording, we stayed in a house. We went and did like
I feel
a
like
writing week and stuff. Like those are the times where I get back and I'm like, yeah, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I've been in bands before this one, and it was like so much more difficult, and it just every single time refreshes how I feel about, yeah, this is the band I want to make this work with. This is something I'm really passionate about. I think that's probably what it is for me.
If I had an actual fond memory that wasn't just a fucking big glass window, it'd be so we after Subservient, we all had a chat and we were like, look, we've got literally like nothing written, so we said, oh, we should go there's a really lovely area, a couple of hours from us, called the Lake District. So we went over to the Lake District in winter, and not actually, this isn't even a particularly fond memory because I've got asthma, and when I got there, I had nothing left in my inhaler, so I was nearly dead for like 3 days whilst we were there. But after that, it was just so good. I can't explain it. Being in
I
a
agree.
house with your base mates, with your best friend, you know, just writing music. That was the first time as well where me and Alfie had really sitting down and tried to collaboratively write. So that's when we wrote pretty much we wrote all of Reverie in about 2 hours. Just came out really organically. So that's probably my favorite memory now that, you know, the bird and the window's gone.
Yeah, that was a great time. That was loads of fun.
Yeah.
That was really fun.
All right, so this is the point in the interview, guys, where if you have anything that you want to plug, anything you want to bring up we haven't discussed, or anything you want to ask us, the floor is yours.
Oh.
Hey,
Please listen to 303,
Yeah.
which is
that's
available
not very
everywhere.
convincing. I want to ask if, like, you know Elvis or something.
No, my
No.
friend, that's Memphis.
Well, I'm English, so whatever. Just insult my teeth or something.
Or how
I have
about
a question.
Yeah.
Alfie has a question.
How did you hear about us? Like, how did you find us?
I have a worrying feeling that was me.
Was that you?
I
We
just
found her.
I
We
found you
found
guys
you.
and I sent you a cheesy message, I think, and you were
cheesy-
very friendly.
Thank you for listening to that then. You could have just disregarded it. You could
Who's
have
this
been like,
fool?
UK?
Who are this crap band? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah,
Thank
sending
you
us
for
a
liking
cheesy sending us a cheesy message is the easiest way to get on the show. That's all it takes.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to ask.
Is that you plugging? You just got us to plug 303 and then you're like, sending us cheesy messages. Anyone who's listening is in a band is the easiest way to get on our show. Plugging, I see you.
He put his lip like right up to the screen and just went like, like and subscribe.
No.
I wanted to ask you guys, what do you think of metal in the UK, or metal and hardcore in the UK, from someone from the States?
So I'll go first, Connor, if that's okay. So Architects is my favorite band.
Good choice.
And that definitely emerged out of, so right around the All Our Gods Have Abandoned Us period, Architects and Bring Me the Horizon became incredibly popular here in the United States. Bring Me the Horizon in particular has maintained a high degree of popularity. And a lot of people outside of the metal community really, really liked Ammo, and it sold well. And riding on that wave came a lot of other British bands. And I don't know if this is connected or not, but oddly enough, a lot of Australian bands.
Not really. Other side of the world.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. But what I'm getting at is that British bands and Australian bands kind of dominate the American metal scene, or the broader metal scene. We listen to a lot of hardcore, Connor and I do personally. So there are a lot of, like, I don't want to say B tier, but like very good, but not quite as popular bands like Jesus Piece and Turnstile and this sort of stuff that are also very, very prevalent in our localized like metal landscape that Connor and I exist in. But the simplest answer to your question is that British metal actually has a very, very strong presence in the United States. And I think that Connor and I both really, really love it. And by the way, the reason that I conflated the British and the Australian bands is that I think the best show that Connor and I have ever been to was an Architects Thy Art Is Murder show. And a lot of that really has been conflated in like the American metalcore landscape. So there you go.
Awesome. Yeah.
I was only joking, by the way.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah. I guess in terms of our plugging stuff, I think just 303 is available everywhere. cool
Watch
video
out for more.
on YouTube. Watch out for more, definitely, because we've got not set in stone, but we're heading into the studio pretty soon to get another single down. And again, we don't know when it's going to be out, but it should be out in not too distant future.
Before the end of the year, it'll be out.
Before the end of the year, yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, that should be pretty cool when it's out.
Okay, sick. Well, thank you guys for coming and talking to us. It's been a lot of fun, and we're very happy to signal boost everything you guys are doing. We really like your music. We think you're doing a great job. So thanks for coming by.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
Cheers.
All right, everybody take care.
All right,
Oh,
see you later.
Stay safe.
Bye.
Yeah.